Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video in my 2025 challenge where I'm trying to photograph 250 species of birds in the state of Massachusetts this year. So today I'm back at Plum Island. I'm at a location here called Stage Island Pool, which I don't think I've shown in my videos from this angle before. There's a viewing platform up here. The motto for this viewing platform should probably be great birds at a great distance, because good birds often show up in Stage Island Pool, but you're always just too far away to get any good photographs of them. But I have picked up a few lifers here over the years, so I'm not going to complain. So this is a little bit of a catch-up video. I've been to Plum Island, I think maybe 3 times since the last time I posted a video, and I picked up a few birds each time. So it's time to kind of collect all those into one video here from Plum Island. This is going to be a special video because we're going to go over 200 birds for the year, by the way. So that's going to be a nice milestone. So let's jump into it. The first bird I want to show is a black-necked stilt. Really good bird that showed up here a few weeks ago at the main salt pan. And when it first showed up, it was in the afternoon, and I ran over here after work. Got here as soon as I can, but it was very late afternoon, and that's a time when the lighting is not so great. So the first footage I got was not so good, but certainly good enough to count. Then fortunately, this bird stuck around and was actually joined by a second bird. And when I came by in the morning, maybe a week or so later, I got some better footage. And that's really great because this is just such a spectacular bird with the black and white plumage and the bubblegum pink legs, that long upturned bill. Just a real beauty. And so that was kind of a special one of the better birds that I've seen this year, actually, black-necked stilt. This was also, by the way, a Massachusetts state lifer for me, so a bird I've never seen in Massachusetts before. And another new bird that I picked up in the main salt pan here is a semi-palmated sandpiper. This is a really common sandpiper. It was just time to get it on the list. They tend to show up a little bit later in the spring migration, maybe in late May or June. So this was always one that I was going to get on the list, so no surprises. Did get some nice footage of the semi-palmated sandpiper with a white rump sandpiper, which is kind of nice because when you see a bird by itself, you can often wonder which one it is, but when you see them together, you can see that they're actually pretty different. The white rump sandpiper actually looks to be almost twice as big as the semi-palmated sandpiper, and it's also a longer bird, kind of more stretched out, and certainly plenty of differences when you see them side by side. But anytime you see a bird all by itself, none of these things really become simple, so shorebirds are tough. And next up is a bird that I consider to be kind of a Plum Island specialty. This is always one of the best places in the state to view them, and that is a salt marsh sparrow. So this is a small, rather reclusive sparrow that likes to hide in the salt marshes, in the grass, as you would imagine from the name. Really nice looking sparrow when you get a good look at it. So it can be a little frustrating when you don't, because it has this nice orange color on the face, kind of an orange triangle. So fortunately, I was able to come here on a day when they were unusually active, and this is again right along the main salt pan, same location where I just showed the stilt from, and they were flitting around between the salt pan and the road, so quite close, which was nice. And did get a little footage here that you can see showing them pretty well, and also got some nice photos of this one. I think these are probably the best video and photos that I've gotten of the species, so that's kind of a nice one, and obviously another new one for the year. As you can see from the counter in the upper right of the screen, that's species number 200 photographed in Massachusetts this year. Another 50 species to go to meet the challenge. I had figured that I should get to 200 species by the midpoint of the year in order to be on track, so it's good to hit that number. It's getting harder and harder to add new species since most of the common birds are now on the list. Okay, so I'm just walking along the Stage Island Trail now, past the viewing platform where I was before. Just going to see if I can find any birds along here. It's a nice day for birding in the summer. It's overcast, not too hot, and not too buggy along here, which is a little bit of a surprise. So let's continue on with a couple of the more common birds that you can get at Plum Island, but which we still need for our list. And the first one of those will be cedar waxwing. They've been really late to show up this year, and I wasn't too worried because they always become quite common at some point in the summer and fall. So finally got one perched up here for a nice close look, so we'll count that on the list. Another bird which can be a little bit tricky to find, but is generally pretty easy to get at Plum Island if you visit enough times, is purple finch. This is one I tend to hear every time I come to Plum Island in season, but I don't always get a good look at. And so I was pleased when I was walking along the road at Hellcat and actually heard one suddenly start singing really close to me and was able to spot it here. I always like to get the video with the bird singing, and I really do like the song of the purple finch. It's always just such a cheerful Bobolink song to listen to. So next up on our Plum Island catch-up list is Bobolink. This is a bird of open fields and prairies, which means that they are declining a bit in Massachusetts, becoming a little bit less common. Fortunately, Plum Island continues to be a place where there's at least a few breeding pairs each year and just a couple of places where they tend to be found. So it wasn't too hard to find this one in the open field that is just north of the Pines area, kind of right in the middle of Plum Island. So as you can see, I ended up getting some pretty good footage of this male bobolink. It's kind of a unusual looking bird, I think, with the yellow on the head and then the black body and then the white patches. Was sort of interested to see all the white on the back when the bird turned around here at the end. Haven't really noticed that before. I don't know if this individual has a little bit more white than usual, or I just don't see them from the back from very often, but it's kind of a nice look there from the back. All right, and one more catch-up bird from a previous visit to Plum Island is barn swallow. Of course, this is a common bird in Massachusetts and in many places in the world, actually, but neat looking swallow, and they do breed at the Warden's maintenance area of Plum Island, so that's always kind of a good spot to see them. They have a nest somewhere along the back of this big maintenance building here, and for whatever reason, the best look I was able to get is when this one was repeatedly perching on the top of this small excavator tractor here, or whatever it is. Did he do that on purpose? Yes, he's definitely doing that on purpose. Kind of a nice look, and another new one for the list. Okay, so I've ended up walking a little farther than I had planned. I've come to the end of the Stage Island Trail, and it terminates right up against Plum Island Sound here. I can swing around and show you there. So there's the water. This is a very protected area that is connected to the Atlantic Ocean, so it is part of the ocean, but it comes around to the other side of Plum Island. So we're looking between Plum Island and the mainland here, and there's a beach that runs along here, so I might as well walk along the beach a little bit, see if we can see anything there. All right, so I'm walking along the beach along Plum Island Sound here, heading for Sandy Point, which is the southern tip of Plum Island. Might be able to pick up some least terns there. That's one that I need for the year, and they often have a breeding colony down there, so we'll see if I can get some footage of least tern. But in the meantime, I've actually already seen a few birds today, so let's go through those. So the first one is one that I became aware of as soon as I arrived at Plum Island because someone posted it on the Plum Island GroupMe chat, which has been a great resource this year. And that is a yellow-breasted chat. So this chat was just along the road and someone gave the location of it. And when I arrived at that location, someone else was already looking at it. It was perched up in a little island here, as you can see, well off the road. The lighting was kind of low, so poor footage, poor photos for this one, but that's the way it goes sometimes with a good bird. So yellow-breasted chat is a good bird for Massachusetts, relatively uncommon, so one I'm very pleased to get on the list. They do show up in the fall. I may have another opportunity to photograph one later in the year, but this will certainly do for now, and definitely a good addition to the list. And the other bird that I've picked up today is Eurasian Wigeon, another one that is relatively rare in Massachusetts. As the name implies, it's obviously a European bird, but they do show up so regularly in Massachusetts that I hesitate to describe it as a vagrant. You know, it's certainly not in the same category as the northern lapwing that we saw earlier this year, but it is a good bird to find. You know, you generally have a few of them showing up every year, but you're not necessarily going to bump into them. This is a bird that showed up about a week ago, and it was a little frustrating because I was actually out of town, out of state, and couldn't chase it. And I was hoping it would stick around, and it kept getting reported day after day. And so my luck held, and I found it in the previously reported location here, which is Bill Forward Pool, which is the one that's sort of at the southern side of the Hellcat dyke, if you know Plum Island at all. Another good location for birds where you can't get as close to them as you like, so the footage is a little bit distant, but relatively clear, so no problems putting Eurasian Wigeon on the list. Kind of a neat looking bird with the all red head. This is the Hellcat Dyke and Observation Tower, one of the most recognizable birding sites in Massachusetts. Yeah, if you saw it, these moot swans flew right by me while I was standing on the dike, an impressive sight. They each weigh more than 20 pounds, so that's more than 100 pounds of swan moving at high speed. And one more bird that I've already seen today is unfortunately one that I was not able to photograph well, and that is least bittern. Least bitterns have been breeding both at the Hellcat marsh area and also down at Stage Island Pool. So actually just after filming the Eurasian Wigeon, I was scanning the reeds, and the least bittern popped out and started flying across the water, which is usually how you see them. Generally, they end up going into another area of reeds and disappearing, but this time it actually perched on the reeds in the open, but it was at a great distance. As you can see, this is pretty bad footage, pretty bad photos, but I am going to count it because the rules for the list say that you can just have to identify the bird, and you can identify this as a least bittern. Before continuing with my walk on the beach looking for least terns, I want to show something unexpected that happened a little later as I was driving off the island. As I was approaching the main salt pans, I spotted what appeared to be 3 glossy ibis in a small pan right off the road. So I stopped and started filming them from the car. 2 of them were feeding close together, and the third one was standing a bit apart. These 2 feeding actively seemed a bit more interesting to watch, so I concentrated on those. Glossy ibis is already on the year list, but they're not so common, and it's always a treat to get a good look. What I didn't realize at the time was that the third ibis that I was ignoring was actually a white-faced ibis, a much less common species that looks very similar to glossy ibis. I had actually searched through a large flock of about 100 glossy ibis looking for a white-faced ibis a couple times this year, without any luck. Fortunately, I did eventually take some video and photos of the third ibis. It was quite a pleasant surprise when I opened the images on my computer and saw that it was a white-faced. The key differences are a pink face surrounded by a complete white border, and the eyes are red instead of dark. These field marks are not obvious at a distance, especially since glossy ibis also has some white lines on the face. Okay, so after walking about another 10 minutes south, I did encounter several least terns, which were flying around the beach and clearly in breeding mode. They tend to be very aggressive and fly at your head when you approach their enclosure, so don't really want to bother them too much. I did get some footage here that you can see of a least tern. And with that, I decided to turn around and start walking back to my car. One of the factors that makes me want to do that is that the radar is getting a little bit of ominous in terms of thunderstorms that are coming. So don't want to be caught out too far from my car when the thunderstorms hit. So this actually then looks like a good time to wrap up this video. So we've added several new birds to the list. We've gone over 200 for the year, and I'm looking forward to the fall. The summer is going to be a slow time over the next 1 to 2 months. So I will probably be posting a little bit more sporadically, but do have another catch-up video that I'm going to do fairly soon of birds that I haven't seen at Plum Island. So you'll see that one coming out pretty soon. Another video that's going to come out pretty soon is actually one more video from my trip to Panama. I have to wrap that one up. So there'll be more content coming, and thank you very much for watching. All my loyal subscribers and viewers who followed me this far, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.